And this is the global forecast from now, early August, through to the end of this year. As I speak, we've got Jupiter retrograde, Saturn retrograde, Chiron retrograde, Neptune retrograde, Pluto retrograde, and Uranus will start going retrograde in about, 18 days' time. Mercury will start going retrograde soon, by which I mean a month from now, 4 or 5 weeks from now, at which point only Venus and Mars will be planets moving forward in the sky. And of course, Mars is going to go retrograde soon. Not yet, but at the end of October. When there's a lot of planets retrograde, it seems as if the events of earlier this year are now giving way to a period of reassessment, reevaluation, reconsideration, where many of the dreams, visions and ideas of the early part of this year are now changing into blueprint, schedule and plan, or those dreams, vision, ideas are being dismissed and let fly in the wind. They're being let go of. Actions won't really kick in until all the big planets start moving forward again, which in many cases won't be till the start of the year, next year. So much of the rest of this year is spent in a kind of reassessment of what's happened so far, whether it be with the war in Ukraine, whether it be with the gun control things in America, whether it be with the economic and political situations involving China and Russia, whether it be the political status in a number of different countries, Britain, America, Australia. Great deal of reassessment and reevaluation going on with no kind of clear outcomes as yet. In early August, mid-August, Mars is now getting ready to leave Taurus and move into Gemini. And normally Mars would stay in Gemini for 7 weeks, but this time it's going to be for 7 months. And with Mars moving forward into Gemini, entering its own retrograde shadow around the 4th of September and not leaving its retrograde shadow until about the 17th of March of next year. Any astrological student watching this video, look at the area of your own horoscope and the area in the charts of the colleagues, friends, family, clients that you have, and look at the area of 8 to 25 degrees of Gemini. Look at what house it's in. This is where Mars will be going retrograde, and this is where there's going to be a lot of changes in that house area over the coming year, over the coming 6 or 7 months. As we get into mid-August, there is a really strong full moon imminently at 19 degrees of Leo on the 12th, early morning UK time on the 12th, which is only about 6 days from now. And that full moon is going to be strongly square Uranus and conjunct Saturn. So there's a great deal of intransigence, inflexibility, the need for change, but Saturn's holding strong at the moment. So the old structures are going to dominate over the coming few weeks. And this is particularly so in Britain, with the ruling party in a set of meltdown, fussing about the intricacies of leadership while the government is falling apart and we have 13% inflation. Nice to see they've got their priorities right. Unfortunately, that's not going to change because they still think that the old systems will work, but obviously they're falling apart. The end of August, we got the new moon in Virgo, which is actually quite a nice new moon. As we get into September, Mercury goes retrograde on the 10th. September's, it's an interesting time, but primarily because Mars is doing what it does in early Gemini. And that's going to be bringing a lot of short-term volatility, impatience, frustration, irritation into many people's lives. But it's not impossible to deal with. September's very much a month of build-up, if you like. Then we get into October. Mercury stops going retrograde on the 2nd of October. Pluto stops going retrograde on the 8th of October, which will be warmly welcomed by a number of people. Saturn will stop going retrograde on the 23rd of October. So the more we get into the end of October, the more we're going to see log jams clearing and things really beginning to develop and move forward. Mars is getting ready to stand still and stop going and start going retrograde, which will happen on the 30th of October. During October, the full moon in Pisces on the 10th of September, got this wrong. The 10th of September full moon in Pisces is not that significant. Neither is the 2-degree Libra new moon in Libra on the 25th of September, although it will be opposite Jupiter. So it may be that at the end of September we get a little surge of what I call a storm in a teacup. October's moons are much more important. The full moon on the 9th of October at 16 degrees of Aries, very strongly working positively with Saturn and to a lesser extent with Mars, is going to give a sense of optimism and hope, but it's probably going to get dashed because straight after that we head into eclipse season. And at the end of October there is a partial eclipse of the Sun on the 25th of October at 2 degrees of Scorpio. It's not that significant as eclipses go, but then we get into November. As we get into November, by then Pluto and Saturn are moving forward. There's a definite shift in the energy. There's going to be more direct actions going on in the world. There'll be direct challenges between the need to stick to the old tried and trusted systems of the past and the need to be innovative and to move forward into the future using new terminology, new methodology. I imagine the war in Ukraine will still be going on, but I also imagine that the entrenched attitudes of sides will be beginning to dissipate and there'll be a bit more flexibility, probably by necessity rather than desire, because I suggest that by November supply systems probably on both sides are going to be running short. And then we get to the 8th of November. Not only is it election day in America, there is a total eclipse of the moon in Taurus, pretty much exactly conjunct Uranus and squaring Saturn. It'd be interesting to see the astrocartography to see where the eclipse moon's path will be exactly at the time of the maximum eclipse. I will do that closer to the time. But this is going to upset the apple cart in a number of areas. Anybody who has planets at 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 of Taurus, Leo, Scorpio and Aquarius, be careful around that eclipse because you're going to get your buttons pushed and there may be problems. It's a volatile eclipse, it's unpredictable, it's got the potential for sudden drama, for disruption, for revolution. And you can be absolutely sure that somewhere in the world there's going to be a few hotheads who work on a principle that might is right and that they can defend democracy and freedom by shooting things and people or blowing things up. It's a kind of perverse world we live in at the moment where might makes right and anger fuels violence as opposed to, well, it's actually a reaction to the imposition of the structures that have been pushed upon us by political systems that have become rapidly redundant. And until the political systems change, there's always going to be this reaction to them, which is going to get increasingly fundamentalist. But then the current political systems, as they always have been, are driven by profit. This is all going to change within a couple of years now, 2 or 3 years. Watch this, come to this in a minute. As we get into November, Mars is going retrograde. Jupiter will stand still and start going forward again as we get into mid-November, which a number of you will be very pleased about, I'm sure. And with Mars retrograde, there's going to be a lot of re-evaluation of the way we put energy into certain environments and situations. It's going to change big time. The new moon in November at 1 degree of Sagittarius on the 23rd of November is working very well with both Mercury and Venus. It's indicative of perhaps a little bit of new hope coming through. And as we get into December, so Neptune stops going retrograde. Now Mercury will start going retrograde again at the very end of the year on the 29th, but we'll look at that one another time. Jupiter will move back into Aries at the end of the year also. The full moon in Gemini on the 8th of December, it is going to be pretty much conjunct Mars. That's a flashpoint. That's up there with the 8th of November full moon as well. The full moon on the 8th of December, we've got the full moon at 16 degrees of Gemini, and Mars will be at 16 degrees of Gemini. So the full moon will be exactly conjunct Mars. You should be able to see it quite clearly in the sky. And yeah, that's when the hotheads will be out in force. The new moon, just after the solstice on the 23rd of December at the start of Capricorn, again, that's squaring Jupiter. Now, I am a bit worried by all this. Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune and Pluto are flirting with each other. They're dancing with each other. The Mars retrograde, it's being a pain for individuals. The only serious challenge it's making to the world is when it stands still. It will be squaring Neptune for, I don't know, for a week or three. Probably over the last couple of weeks of October and the first week in November, Mars will be squaring Neptune. So there's going to be environmental issues coming up at that time, particularly around the oceans and oil. I imagine the cost of fuel across the world will go up considerably again in mid-November, early December. But it's the moons. It's that eclipsed moon on the 8th of November, exactly conjunct Uranus, followed by the new moon, the full moon on the 8th of December, exactly conjunct Mars. These are volatile, proactive, borderline aggressive and confrontational, and borderline explosive. It's not the big picture. It's not the large scale, the long term. It's isolated incidents. It's isolated moments. We're not heading into a protracted period of long-term challenge any worse than it's going to get with the current economic situation in the world. But there are going to be flashpoints around those two full moons. So the sensible people will not be going out partying those nights. More closer to the time. Catch you later, world. Bye.